Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Gemology for Schmucks. My name is Peter Nelson, and I'm here to guide you in everything you need to know about gemstones and jewelry. Today, we're going to talk about how to properly get your ring size, because that is a hurdle that many people have yet to overcome. Don't worry, it's not difficult, it's not expensive, but there are a couple of things that you need to know, as well as one devil in the details that I will reveal a little bit later. So if you're working with a local jeweler near you, it's easy enough to go into their shop, they will size your ring, and you don't have to listen to this video anymore. You can go away. But if you would like to be working with an artist that is not in your area, then it's very important that they know your size and not just a guess of your size, because that could be an expensive mistake for two reasons. Number one, if it's mistaken, then your ring needs to be resized, and that is not free. That's actually one of the most common things for a repair jeweler to do. In fact, when I was at New Approach School for Jewelers in Tennessee over the past 5 months in the United States, that was one of the first things that we learned how to do, how to size down, how to size up. So it's a very common thing for jewelers to do, but it is a paid service. And beyond that, there are also some styles of ring, like these eternity bands that I made, where stones go all the way around the outside, that cannot easily be sized up or sized down. There's stones in the way, and as the ring changes shape, stones start popping out, they come loose, it's terrible. In fact, one of my hometown friends commissioned me to make one of these eternity rings for his wife, and his wife's finger size is a half size larger than the ones that I had on hand. So rather than size up one of my rings and have stones pop out and be worried about them coming loose, etc., I'll just remake the ring. That is my preference for this style of ring. So rather than mess with the design of the ring, it's better that we get the size right the first time. One of the other options that I recommend to many of my clients is actually to go and shop around in another jeweler's. When I am talking about a project that I'm planning to do with my client, I recommend that they go to another jeweler and see what they have for sale. What I am doing is not Lego jewelry. The vast majority of commercial jewelers are making what I like to call Lego jewelry, which are just components, maybe a ring shank and various types of ring heads. Pop them together, solder it closed, and that's your ring. It doesn't move me. But it is good business, and it fits a lot of people's desires. Not everybody wants something that's over the hill like me, and that's totally fine. But in that process, my clients get to do two things. They get to look and see what is available in an average shop, and they get to know for sure what their ring size is. That way they can be convinced of the value that they're getting. If they prefer to go with Lego jewelry, that's their business. That's totally fine with me. But if I'm making a ring for them, I want to make sure that their ring is going to fit without needing to be resized. So if you don't want to, or it's inconvenient for you to go into a jeweler to have your ring size, you can get a set of sizing rings and a ring sizing mandrel. I bought 2 of these kits, one of these, plus another one, off of Amazon, and I think they were like $10 each. Really, really cheap. The reason I bought 2 was so that I could leave one in my hometown with my family, so that if anybody in our circle of people wanted to do a project with me, my family could size their finger for me, and we could communicate directly. If you buy from the same company at the same time, it's more likely that you've got 2 tools that are going to be of the same measurements. Because no, these are not highly standardized instruments. So it's important for me to look at the instruments and test them first before I end up on the other side of the world and not being quite sure what the sizes of each are. So sizing rings and ring mandrel, do they do the same thing? Yes and no. Obviously they're different shapes. So let's talk first about the sizing mandrel. The sizing mandrel would be very useful if you had a known ring that you were sure fit the finger that you were trying to have a ring made for. So for example, if you were trying to surprise somebody for their anniversary and you wanted a ring that nests with their engagement ring or their wedding bands, for example, then you could take those rings, perhaps when they're in the shower, and quickly measure their ring. So this is easy enough. You would just take that ring that you know fits, this is always on my finger, drop it onto the mandrel, and you read the number. Now make sure that you're using the right system for your jeweler. In the United States, we have one system based on numbers, but those numbers are a lot like shoe sizes. They're just kind of an arbitrary size. The math behind it is that the length of your foot? No, not exactly. It's more of just a numerical name. I believe in France, they actually do use the circumference as their ring size. Makes sense to me. In the UK, they use letters. Who knows why? But anyway, whichever system you use, make sure that you are talking the same language with your jeweler. I did a recent ring project with one of my friends living in China. They gave me a Chinese number system. I had to look up a conversion table on the internet, which is totally fine. You just need to make sure that everybody's on the same page for which system you're talking about. So I've looked at it, I've double checked it. I'm certain that this is 9.5. I can take my ring off, I can take that number, and I can go talk to my jeweler, right? maybe not. So before I tell you about maybe not, let me tell you how the other tool works. These sizing rings are the same thing as that. They have a system of numbers, and it's just a ring that you'll put on your finger. If you got these tiny little fingers, you start with a 0. I don't have tiny little fingers. The mandrel just told me I was a 9.5, so I go to the ring that says 9 minus. That's how this system conveys 9.5. And so what I will do is I'll take that sizing ring and just put it on my finger. Oh look, it fits. How wonderful. So I can confirm with the sizing ring that this is in fact the size that fits me best. And if you're at all suspicious about your mandrel, which you should be, then you can take the mandrel, take your sizing ring, and compare them. And when I look at this 9.5 ring on this mandrel, what I notice is the same thing that I noticed when I was back with my family. This mandrel is inaccurate. The two mandrels that I bought at the same time from the same company using the same item number are 1/4 to 1/2 size different. This is the bigger one. The one that I left with my family is an accurate mandrel. How is that possible? I have no idea. So what I will suggest is do buy these as a set, because the sizing rings can help you to double verify your ring and the mandrel. So if you had to surreptitiously snatch your ring while your partner or whomever else is in the shower, measure it secretly, you could make sure that you knew what the number was on the mandrel, and then later when it was convenient, you could double check it against the sizing ring. And then what's even more interesting is that these sizing rings oftentimes will come apart. So this one just twists at the top, and I could pull off the ring and give it to my jeweler. That way they can check it against their mandrel, and there's not a shadow of a doubt that you're working with the right size. There's no confusion caused by a toy. Because as we said, yes, rings can be sized, but not all designs can. And as the ring is expanded or contracted, the circumference is going to change, which means that stones that used to fit may no longer fit, or stones that are set inside of the metal might get crunched, which is a frustrating thing to have to deal with. So let's make this long story short. How do we actually use these sizing rings to make sure that we've got the right size for us? What you want to do is go through this set of rings until you find the one that does, and listen to this very carefully, goes on easily, but you have to wiggle it to take it off, okay? So I thought my middle finger was a 9, so I took the one that says 9 up at the top of the ring. I put it on my finger. I have to push a little bit to get it on. No problem, feels pretty comfortable. And then I have to wiggle it to get it off. If you think it's too tight, go for one size up. Compare it. This one goes on really easily, comes off a little too easily. So 9.5, I think, is maybe too large for me. I'm going for the 9. Now, there are also 1/4 sizes as well. So if you feel like your 9.5 or your 9 or whatever finger size it is for you is just a little bit too big or a little bit too small, communicate that with your jeweler. But it's very important to keep in mind what environment you are in and the condition of your body as you are getting sized. If it is winter time and you are cold, or you just came in from outside in the cold, or perhaps you're ill or something, your finger may be slightly smaller than usual. If it's summer, like it always is all year long here in Bangkok, it's more likely that you're slightly inflamed. Did you eat something particularly salty yesterday? Are you stressed out and angry? You might be a little bit more fluffy. So take that into account when you're sizing. Try not to be too ambitious on the is it tight enough side. I know some people that wanted to have their ring just a bit tighter, but then when they get stressed out, same kind of thing, blood starts flowing, they get a little bit more expanded, and all of a sudden, that half size becomes incredibly uncomfortable. Any of you who have been watching my videos for any length of time will know that I'm a big fan of stacking rings. I've got 3 over on this side, and I've got 3 over on this side. So when you are wearing multiple rings, that is larger surface area. Your rings don't have to fit quite as tightly, because as the rings move around together, they actually create more surface area, and it's harder for them to just fall off. So what I do on this side is I've got 2 eternity rings, and then I've got one just solid engraved ring. And this one is about 1/4 size too small. So the reason that is because I've got these 2 eternity rings that, as you can see, I don't have to wiggle to take off. So if I want to wear these 2 eternity rings on this finger, I have to be very careful that they don't go, like the one ring and just escape at some moment, when it's deeply inconvenient for me. Then I can just add 1 extra ring that's a little bit tighter on the outside of the stack. I have to push this one a little bit more to get it over the knuckle, but it holds the other rings on without any issue. Could it be properly sized? Absolutely. I just made this one a little bit tight. As you may have noticed, I am back in Bangkok, the evergreen and ever sweaty, and I will be here long term. So those of you who are interested in picking up gemstone and jewelry projects, please do reach out to me. You can reach out to me at gemshepherd.com. Let me know what kind of ideas you have for stones that you might want or jewelry projects that you're interested in doing. The coming episodes, I will be sharing more about my jewelry work and the direction that I will be going as a jeweler. So if you've got any questions, you can either send them to me at gemshepherd.com or leave them in the comments down below. Hit like, hit subscribe, tell all of your friends about me. Until next time, bye-bye.